God hates pride. He hates arrogance. The Bible actually contains many stories of how God humbled prideful people, and he is still doing this today. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit goes before a fall." So it is in your best interests to keep your pride in check, because if you don't, God will find a way to humble you. And it could be embarrassing, and it certainly won't feel good. I've been humbled many times in my life, and it was embarrassing, and it did not feel good. So today I'm talking about ways that we can stay humble. Now, when I'm upset with someone, I try to remind myself of the mistakes that I've made, the things that I did that God had to forgive me for. I remind myself that there was a time when I was very spiritually immature, had a sassy mouth, among other things. And when I remind myself of that, it allows me to extend grace to others. So one key to staying humble is to look back on your own life and, remind yourself of the mistakes that you've made, and remember that you were also in a season when you lacked spiritual maturity and you had a lot to learn and you needed to grow. So that's number one. Number two, the second key is being considerate toward others. Philippians 2:3 tells us, "Do nothing out of rivalry or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others." This verse, this is like gold. I mean, to keep that in mind every day, can you imagine how that would change the way you treat people? Because our human nature leans toward selfishness. It leans toward looking out for ourselves. But this verse is telling us to do the exact opposite. Consider others as more important than ourselves. How many of us are actually doing that? I mean, do we have a desire to help and serve others? Do we treat everyone the same? Psalms 33:5 tells us that God loves righteousness and he loves justice. And part of justice is treating people with the same standard. And that means the homeless man that's on the street, we treat that man with the same respect that we treat, a rich celebrity who is admired by many. Do we do that? Do we act like we are above certain people because they're not as educated as we are, or they're not as financially successful as we are? Do we prefer to hang out with people of a higher social status? Those are all good questions to ask ourselves. I have a good example of a way that women are not considerate toward other women. I think this happens a lot in society. And I experienced this myself. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I endured negative comments from working women who were obviously suggesting that I was lazy and unproductive because I didn't work outside the home. And now that I'm retired, I'm once again hearing these snarky comments. I retired at 58, so some women who are older than me are still working. I'm now 61. But what these women don't realize are the sacrifices that I had to make to be able to stay at home when I was a stay-at-home mom, and the sacrifices that I'm now making to retire early. I'm going without a lot of things that working women are still enjoying. Most women would not be willing to give up the things that I've given up. I mean, ask me about my summer vacation. I won't have much to say about it. So, most women, they just wouldn't be willing to sacrifice those things. And, when you make condescending comments like that are intended to make someone else feel small, what you're doing is you're putting your pride on display for everyone to see. So it's actually another way to stay humble when you don't compare yourself to others. That's another way. I should probably make this 8 ways, because not comparing your life to someone else's, when you do that, you're actually being prideful. So So, just remember that verse. Consider others as more important than yourselves. Look out not only for your own interests, but also for the interests of others. Instead of wanting to be served, choose to serve others. And we do these things because, one reason. That's what Jesus did for us. So think about the sacrifices that Jesus made for you, and that could be a key toward being more considerate of other people. Another key to humility is to recognize that the talents and abilities that you have, they're a gift from God. And this will keep you from getting a big head if you have an ability that is admired by a lot of people. You do have to put in the work to nurture that talent. But God should get the glory for it because He created you and He gives you every breath that you take. And He put that desire in you. He gave you that talent. He gave you the ability to do it. So you really shouldn't be feeling big about yourself. Thank God for the things that you're able to do well and give Him all the praise and glory because He gave you that. He gave you every breath. He gave you your talent. He gave you your abilities. He gave you life. So give Him the glory. Number 4 is being thankful. Notice the positive things in your life and maintain a daily mindset of gratitude. Number 5 is be teachable. Accept correction from others. Gracefully accept that constructive criticism. Be willing to admit that your way of doing something may not always be the best way. Admit your mistakes. Don't be so prideful that you can't humble yourself and admit when you screw up sometimes, And you don't always have all the best answers, and you don't always have all the best ideas. Be teachable and accept correction with grace. Number 6 is be a good listener. When you're having that conversation with someone, instead of making it all about yourself, take an interest in that other person and ask them questions and take the focus off yourself. This makes people feel valued. It makes them feel respected, and it makes you appear like a kind, considerate person. So humble people are always good listeners. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, encourage one another and build each other up as you are already doing. There are a lot of hurting people out there that need a listening ear. So be that one to encourage them. Be that one to listen and take an interest in their lives. You have no idea the difference that could make in someone's life. Number 7 is laugh it off. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't put up this facade that you're perfect and you have it all together all the time. When you put up a phony facade of perfection, what you do is you make people very uncomfortable around you and you make yourself unlikable. So be able to laugh at yourself when you mess up. Now, not all mistakes are laughable, but when you make a silly mistake, have fun with it. Throw in some self-deprecating humor. And people love the genuineness of a person who can accept her screw-ups and her imperfections. People who are able to do that, I love them. I call them real people. One that comes to mind is Valerie Bertinelli. She is just, she accepts her flaws and her mistakes, and she has fun with it. I follow her on Instagram, and the last post I saw from her, she posted something about how she's having a hard time dealing with getting older because she's been young for most of her life, and she's lifted up her arm and playing with her arm flab and saying, what's going on with this? And it's just, she's so humble and she's so honest and she's so likable. I love people like that. Val and I could hang out together. We would have the best time. We would just sit and laugh because we'd laugh about the same things. Her books, she openly admits her mistakes. She admits her flaws. She doesn't care what people think about her. It's just, so be real, laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. It's really hard to like someone who puts up this fake front where they're trying to pretend to be perfect all the time. It's just really hard to like people like that. So, be a Valerie. She's so lovable. So these are some ways to keep your pride in check and just avoid any embarrassing humbling that God might want to bring on you, because he hates pride, he hates arrogance, and I speak from experience when I say he will find a way to knock that out of you, and it will not feel good. So, you know, keep yourself grounded, you know, stay down, stay grounded, keep that pride out of your life. Thanks for listening. I am still working on my video on emotional maturity, how to know if you are emotionally mature. There's a lot involved in that one, so, but I will be posting it soon. So, have a good week.